very good evening and a very warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Hishain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Government marks the final stage of the new Mutwal tunnel constructions. Opposition leader commends the government's proposal for the development and asks for a time framework. News in detail. The new Mutwal tunnel, which was being constructed to control floods in Colombo North, came to the final stage today at a modest function attended several politicians and officials from the Ministry of Urban Development and Housing. The city of Colombo has been repeatedly subject of flooding phenomena due to intense rainfall, insufficient storage, conveyance and outflow capacity in the macro drainage system. Thus, the flood and drainage management component of the Metro Colombo Urban Development Project has been set out to regulate the flood safety level of the Colombo drainage basin to an acceptable level for a storm of a 50-year target return period. The tunnel begins at the mouth of the Alutmawata main drain, runs underground through the new Mutwal area and discharges the water to sea at Mutwal area near the Mutwal fishing harbour. New Mutwal tunnel, lined with a thick concrete inner layer, is 3 meters in diameter and 778 meters long. The capacity through the tunnel is 15 cubic meters or 15,000 liters per second. The new Mutwal tunnel and the Torrington tunnel, yet to commence the constructions, form part of this governmental program, partially funded by the World Bank. State Minister of Urban Development, Coast Conservation, Waste Disposal and Public Sanitation, Dr. Nalaka Godaheva, and several politicians, together with the ministry officials and Chinese construction company officials, attended the ceremony to conclude the holing through of Shield Tunnel at the Mutwal took place this morning.
Colombo city always had a problem of flooding. We remember decades ago, this was a serious problem and nobody could find a permanent solution for that. It was our current president, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, when he was the secretary of the Ministry of Urban Development, who started a project with the World Bank to find a permanent solution for that. So in somewhere around 2013, a huge project was started to find a permanent solution for that, and a lot of infrastructure development was done as part of that. So that continued during his tenure very fast, and most of the issues are sorted out, but unfortunately things got little delayed during the last government. However, we restarted the whole thing once the president came to power, and now we are completing some of the projects that we started in relation to the flood control. There are two main tunnels that were planned as part of this project. One is called the Mutwal Tunnel, the other one is Torrington Tunnel. Mutwal Tunnel is a solution for the flooding in the North Colombo area. So today we are completing the construction of, basically digging of this tunnel. So we are now celebrating the completion of that part, and then once this is done, we have to move on to the next one, the Torrington Tunnel. Construction will begin somewhere in October and continue till about March.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa states that the government's proposals for the development are commendable, but calls the government to put forward a time framework to achieve the mentioned targets in the government's policy framework. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa brought forward these observations today when the government's policy statement was taken up for debate at the parliament today.
විසඳුමක් හැටියට අපිට පුළුවන්කමක් තියෙනවා පිටරට ආයෝජන වැඩි කරන්න. අපි හැමෝම දන්න කාරණාවක් තමයි මේ කොරෝනා ප්‍රශ්නය තුල චීනෙන් පිටට යනවා ආයෝජකයෝ. විශේෂයෙන්ම ඇමරිකාවේ, ඒ වගේම දකුණු කොරියාවේ, ඒ වගේම ජපානයේ. හැබැයි අපේ රටට වැඩපිළිවෙලක් නැහැ ඒ ආයෝජකයින් අපේ රටට ගෙන්න. ඒ වගේම මේ වර්තමාන රජය හිතනවා මේ ආනයන සීමා කරලා අපේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. දැන් මොකද ඒකෙන් ඇති වෙලා තිබෙන තත්ත්වය? කහ හිඟයක් තියෙනවා අපේ රටේ. කහ නැහැ. දැන් හොරපාරෙන් ඉන්දියාවෙන් එනවා කහ ටික අපේ රටට. ටයර් වල හිඟයක් තියෙනවා. බැටරි වල හිඟයක් තිබෙනවා. දැන් මේ හිඟතාවයන් ඇති කරලාද ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගන්න හදන්නේ. ප්‍රතිපත්ති ප්‍රකාශයේ සංවර්ධන යෝජනා ගැන ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. නමුත් මේවා ක්‍රියාවට නගන්නේ කෙසේද? කොහොමද මේ ඉලක්ක සම්පූර්ණ කරන්නේ? ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම මේ ඉලක්ක ගැන කතා කරනකොට මේවට කාලවකවානුවක් තියෙන්නට ඕන. මේ ජාතික ඉලක්ක වලට කාලසටහනක් තියෙන්නට ඕන. කොයි කාලෙද මේ ඉලක්ක සම්පූර්ණ කරන්නේ?
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka states that Sri Lanka's foreign reserves, which stood at $7.2 billion at the end of July, is sufficient to meet the remainder of the estimated $2.5 billion worth debt repayment for the year. Moreover, addressing the yesterday's monetary policy review of the CBSL, its senior deputy governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe added that the CBSL has approved 100 billion rupees in credit under its 150 billion rupees Saubhagya COVID-19 Renaissance facility.
What is the progress on the Indian swap arrangement, and what are the plans to repay the 1 billion bond that will be due in October? And also on microfinance, there was a lot of work done on this issue under the former governor, because I think they also did a study and there was a report released. I remember covering it. And is there any move to take those policies forward as well, please? Thank you.
The India swap, I think we have already received $400 million under SARC swap facility. That's why we are seeing reserve levels have gone up to about 7.2 billion. And to repay the October maturity, I think we have more than sufficient comfortable level of resource so that we can meet that debt service payments without any issue. Obviously, if you look at balance part of this year, it's about 2.5 billion. And we have 7.2 billion, so I think we don't see any issue with debt repayment for this year. Then going forward, government will come up with a borrowing strategy so that we can look at it at that thing. On the microfinance, yes, you are right. What we see, the medium to long-term solution is to bring in all the microfinance institutions under a proper regulatory authority, for which we have already drafted what you call Credit Regulatory Act. And we are sending it to Minister of Finance, and even before last year, before the elections, it was ready. But I think I understand it's with the Minister of Finance, with the legal draftman, and then it has to go to the Cabinet, and now the Parliament is now in place. So basically, hopefully, the new Act basically will address a lot of other unregulated microfinance, including credit and also deposit taking unregulated ones. There is a framework for them to be regulated in the new Act.
Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka announced that it would conduct investigations at the Kerawalapitiya and Norachole power plants to find out what made the national grid to fail on August 16th. PUCSL officials said that 2 teams have already been sent for necessary investigations. Sri Lanka was hit by a major power failure on the 16th of August around 12:35 hours, triggered by a transmission failure resulting in emergency shutdowns of all generators connected to the Ceylon Electricity Board grid, including coal plants. The power was not restored until evening as the grid went down repeatedly. PUCSL media spokesman Jayantha Herat said that they had already sent 2 teams today to the Kerawalapitiya main power plant, Kerawalapitiya substation and the Norachole power plants to look for the reasons for the power outage. Sri Lanka's independent power producers generate 35% of daily energy, with the Mahaveli River plants adding another 24% of the daily energy data showed as the state-run power utility was working to reconnect 3 coal plants to the grid. Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board has taken steps to help the utility manage the load with daily power cuts in the country, as there is a shortfall of around 300 megawatts because Norachole was not online. During 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. hours in the night peak, the CEB has asked the citizens in the country to switch off non-essential light and electrical equipment. As a measure to complement our frontline health workers who combated the COVID-19 pandemic and to encourage foreign travelers to visit our country when our points of entry open up, Sri Lanka's first ever telethon in aid of the frontline health workers will be held on the August 29th Saturday. This was announced at a recent media briefing held in Colombo. Richard De Souza, who is the architect of the event, said that the exemplary actions of the health workers deserve global recognition. Thus, the Rise Sri Lanka Telethon will be held at Nelumpokuna Theatre on 29th of this month from 6 p.m. onwards and would be telecasted and live-streamed to the whole world in order to portray the country's success in combating COVID-19. In the meantime, popular Sri Lankan musician Sohan Veerasinghe and well-known television personality Noeline Hunter will compare the concert, which is limited to 100 invitees. These efforts will come together in solidarity to fulfill one of the main objectives of this event, which is to raise funds for the frontline health workers, and this will be facilitated during the concert and thereafter for a period of 3 days, where any person who wishes to contribute can do so.
Arise Sri Lanka is an unprecedented and unique event which primarily focuses on honoring the men and women in Sri Lanka's medical field who have come together as one to battle the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. And you will agree that they have been most successful in their selfless commitment to this very worthy cause, which has placed Sri Lanka among the world's leading countries in the control of COVID-19. Arise Sri Lanka is also a musical event featuring some of Sri Lanka's top entertainers and musicians.
Bringing forward the analysis of the stock market trading for the gone week, First Capital Holdings states that the political stability followed by the two-thirds majority victory of the ruling party has positively favored the equity investments.
We saw the ruling party gaining two-thirds majority in the new government, and with that creates political stability flowing into policy stability over a long period of time, which significantly favors equity investments. With that, we saw strong buying interest emerging in the market, specifically in the banking sector and capital goods sector. In addition to that, we saw some speculative trading also taking place in construction and building material counters. On Thursday, we saw the policy announcement coming in place, though there was an expectation of another additional rate cut. The Monetary Board concluded the meeting with the decision to hold rates at present levels, and with that, however, they had decided to bring down some of the lending rate caps down sharply. And with that, we saw a bit of profit taking and a bit of selling pressure emerging in selected stocks during Thursday and also a bit during Friday. However, it didn't actually break the uptrend that was there in the market, only managed to slow it down.
Speaking further, research head of First Capital Holdings, Dimantha Matthew, pointed out some sectors that would be highly benefited from the positive momentum in the market in the coming week.
Looking at the upcoming week, we are expecting a bit of buying interest to again come into the market with the positivity that is there around. Specifically, banking sector counters are preferred considering the lower valuation of the counters, while we feel that telecom sector counters and also some of the plantation sector counters would have a strong interest considering the higher tea prices that's there in the market, and also the data streaming revenues being strong in the market. So with these things, we feel that investor sentiment is likely to be strong, and we feel that the upward trend in the market is likely to continue, where we feel that mostly the local investors would be the higher participants that are there in the market. On the foreign side, the selling pressure is likely to continue, and however, the selling pressure is likely to be completely absorbed.
Stay tuned for stock updates. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. Colombo's main all-share price index gained 22.10 points to 5,382.38. SPI opened the day on a positive note and continued to increase before stumbling to reach the intraday's lowest 5,363.81 and picked up to close marginally high. S&P SL20 index of most liquid stocks gained 1% or 23.74 points to 2,395.61. Market turnover reached 1.8 billion rupees, while 88 stocks made gains and 76 stocks made losses. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you on Sunday with Biz Roundup at 7 p.m. Until then, take care. Good night.